Welcome for our science lesson as we are looking into the series of the mid-ocean ridges and the ring of fire. As we continue to look into this mid-ocean ridge, you will have been able to identify that the best example is the mid-Atlantic ridge, and another one is the Pacific ridge. Along this region, we can also associate them with the area of hydrothermal vents, where there are various and numerous volcanic activity. As we are able also to look at other parts, we are also going to look into the regions that are associated with the ring of fire. Just to remind us, the ring of fire is found in the regions. Most of these regions are the sites of the seismic waves or the seismic activity, and around the edges of the seismic activity, these edges are centered on the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, it is the Pacific Ocean the Pacific Ocean. You remember now the East Pacific Ocean ridge. Alongside this, there are numerous activity of volcanic and seismic wave. Therefore, we can now say that the Pacific Ocean, initially, which was referred to as the Pacific Ridge, it is now called the Pacific Ocean. Along the Pacific Ocean, we can be able to find numerous seismic activities. The numerous seismic activities and volcanic eruption. These volcanic eruptions, as they occur along the regions of the mid-Atlantic, that is the mid-Pacific ridge, now we can refer to it as the Pacific Ocean, then we are able to find it. This is one of the regions that is also associated with the ring of fire. Eventually, we are going to narrow in this area. And as a matter of fact, understand that the ring of fire is a region that takes around 75%. Most of this activity that are centered around this region, geologic activity, when we look at them geologically, we're able to come up with what we call the seismic waves. You remember there are three types of seismic wave. We have the primary, we also have secondary, and then we have that is longitudinal. The longitudinal waves, these are examples of the waves that we were able to study them alongside under the topic that is referred to as earthquakes. 75% of the activities that are associated also with the ring of fire, geologically, we could be able to find seismic waves. And most of these seismic waves, they are in various types. When we look at the earthquakes, then the seismic waves comes in this category. We have the primary waves, the secondary waves, and the longitudinal waves. We saw their impact as we are able to study the earthquake. Just to remind you, they cause devastating effect on Earth's surface because most of the human life and properties are destroyed. Remember, the same seismic wave, when they occur along the ocean, we refer to them as the tsunamis. Now, when we look at the tsunamis, and then the regions that are associated with actually the seismic wave under mid-ocean ridges, and then we could also not be able to miss the Pacific Ocean. Mostly the ring of fire is found along the Pacific Ocean. And as a result of this, we were looking at various boundaries that have been produced at various stages that are the one that produces the ring of fire. For example, as we look at the regions where we can associate this area with the ring of fire, where we have 75% of the volcanic eruption activity, where are we able to find the active volcanoes? The active volcano. Let's look at the active volcanoes, then we make association with the ring of fire. Most active volcano, for example, in the world, we can be able to mention various mountains. I will help you. That is Mountain Krakatoa, that is found in Indonesia. Where does Indonesia, that is in Indonesia, where is this Indonesia found? Which ocean is it bordering? And is it very active? We also have another active mountain, like as the St. Helens Mountain. St. Helens Mountain, that is found in the United States of the Washington. If we associate this mountain, where are we linking them? Some of the active volcanoes in the world, where are we linking them? You will discover that they are linked with the Pacific Ocean or the that is the mid-ocean ridge, which is the Pacific Ridge. You can also call it the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, this gives us an in-depth information that we have to go back and also be very careful to monitor the Pacific Ridge and therefore also monitor the Pacific Ocean. As a result of that, let's look at another hotspot. Some of the hotspots that are found in Antarctica. The hotspot that are found in Antarctica is the Erebus. It is called the Erebus. It also become an active spot where there are a constant eruption since it was discovered. Therefore, when you link the Antarctica is also the region that is bordering the trench of the Puerto Rico, creating what we call the Pacific ridge under the mid-ocean ridge. And then when we come to the ocean, we will say it is the Pacific Ocean that is also giving us another hotspot on the other side. And also when we come in the regions where we can be able to find this, some of the most active volcanoes that are found on the western edge from Kamchatka Peninsula. That one is found in Russia. Remember, Russia is found in the Asia. There is an island of Japan. The island of Japan stretching into New Zealand. And New Zealand is actually a region that borders, it is actually borders the Australia, and this is in the southern part of Asia. We could find that is Russia, and then the island of Japan. Alongside that region, we could also locate some of the active or the hotspots that are formed. Let's look at another area. We are still exploring the regions that are associated with the Ring of Fire. Let us look at Mount. There is this mountain. I will just write the name here so that we are going to get the spelling. We have Mount Ruapeam that is found in New Zealand. This mountain is one of the most active volcano that is found in New Zealand. And when you mention New Zealand, you will also be able to mention the southwest of Asia and Japan islands. Therefore, this is formed where the Pacific, plate, that is the Pacific plate, is meeting with the other plate, creating what we call a subduction zone. Creating what we call a subduction zone where beneath the Australian plate and as a result of that, we associate regions of New Zealand with the Pacific plate, creating what we call the Pacific Ocean. It is the zone where subduction has been formed because the Pacific Ocean is denser than the Australian plate. Therefore, we will be able to have a subduction zone along this Pacific plate meeting with the Australian plate. Therefore, beneath it, we'll be able to find the Ring of Fire, because along the subduction zones, remember, we were looking at the various plates. We have to mention, remember, the Pacific plate and the Australian plate in our previous chart. They produce a subduction zone that is on a particular convergent plate boundary. As a result of that, we get on the other side, that is now the Southwest Australia and New Zealand, we have Mount Ruapeam, which is also an example of the ring of fire. But before we could conclude and look at the ring of fire completely, let us look at various oceans that are bordering the world so that we could be able to look at them and associate also these oceans. Associate these oceans with the ring of fire. Actually, there are various oceans. There are various oceans that are found in the world. Just to remind us so that we catch up very quickly, we have the Indian Ocean, that is the Indian Ocean. We also have the Pacific Ocean. After looking at the Pacific Ocean, then we can also not forget the Atlantic Ocean. Any other ocean that you can remember? We also have the Arctic Ocean. Any other ocean that you can remember? The Antarctica Ocean. That was also, initially it was called the Southern Ocean. Or Antarctica Ocean. These oceans, they make up the ocean basin, which are so deep, and alongside this ocean, when we study most of this ocean, that is now the ocean topography under oceanography, then you will find various mid-ocean ridges associated with almost these oceans. When we look at this Pacific Ocean, that is having around 168,723. These are 168,723,000 kilometers squared. This is the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Let us look at the other surface. The Indian Ocean has 70 million 560,000 kilometers squared. We look at the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean has 85 million 133, that is 1,000 kilometers squared. What about the Arctic Ocean? Has 15 million 558,000 kilometers squared. And the Antarctic Ocean having 21 million 960,000 kilometers squared. When we look at these various oceans, every ocean has various mountain ranges that are associated also with the ring of fire. But specifically, when we go and study the largest ocean, that is the Pacific Ocean, we will have more than 400 volcanoes and ridges. The volcanoes and ridges These volcanoes and ridges are the ones that are also linked or associated with the ring of fire. Shortly, all this water surface, it makes up what we call the ocean basin, which are also so deep, and they produce various trenches. They produce various trenches. For example, we have Mariana Trench, call it Mariana Trench. This one is found along the Pacific Ocean or on the Pacific Ocean floor. We will have a Mariana Trench that is almost at 5,824 feet. This is its depth. When you look at the Puerto Rico Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench is also the second. It is found along the Atlantic. It is found along the Atlantic Ocean and has 30,246 feet. Other example is the Java Trench. Where is Java Trench found? Java Trench is found in the Indian Ocean, which carries 24,460 feet. That is its depth. And then finally, when we look at the Antarctic Trench, it is called the Antarctic Trench. Antarctic Trench is found along the southern part of the southern part in the southern poles. We call it the Southern Ocean. Initially it was called the Southern Ocean. It is having around 23,737 feet. Now, these trenches creates what we call the mid-ocean ridges. Therefore, every trench that is in Pacific Ocean, we have the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. I have discovered that when you study them closely, you could be happy and find out that beside these oceans, there are various trenches. And we have on the Pacific Ocean, we have Mariana Trenches. We also have the Puerto Rico Trench on the Atlantic Ocean. We also have the Java Trench on the Indian Ocean. And then find out the Antarctic Trench. It is found in the Southern Ocean. Nowadays, we can also call it the Arctic Ocean because it's found in the southern parts, the south poles of this area. Then as we look at it, most of this ocean, especially we'll discover the Pacific Ocean, it has a large series of volcanoes. Therefore, the Pacific Ocean becomes our area of association. Even if when we go and look at other oceans, we still come back to Mariana's Trench on Pacific Ocean, building up various volcanic mountains. Those becomes the hotspot of seismic waves and earthquake and also volcanic eruptions. It forms what you call a zone of the ring of fire. Before we go and explore this region of the ring of fire, I want to show you a little bit most of the ocean water. Just a reminder, they are saline. Why? Because of the abundant nature of the sodium chloride, which flows alongside the rivers from the land surface runoff. Remember, on the water cycle, you remind yourself what was called the surface runoff. The surface runoffs, especially as this water move as the overflows on Earth's surface, it may dissolve some other minerals that are found on Earth's surface, or those minerals that are exposed on Earth's surface as a result of volcanic activity. And then they will end up dissolving those minerals and they will wash them into the ocean, and therefore makes the ocean water to be saline. Another reason, it is because of the addition of the little water, and there is a high rate of evaporation in the ocean, leading to high salt content. Now, that also makes us to think more and be excited about the oceans. It makes another feature of the oceans more brilliant, alongside looking at Pacific Ocean, associating it more and more with the ring of fire. There is also another essence or characteristic of this ocean, both of them, be it the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. Around most of this ocean, and some of them have fresh water. Why do you think there is saline water in these oceans? Sometimes the surface water of the ocean is relatively warmer than that one that is at the bottom, except only in the regions of the polar, where the layer of the cold water flow over the warm water. Another reason is that the ocean water becomes, another characteristic of the ocean water becomes a habitat of some of the living organisms. That now becomes an important essence of the ocean water. As we look at the ocean water, there we can be able to study and find out some of these habitation, such as the planktons. We have the planktons. We also have the phytoplanktons. The phytoplanktons. We can also have the zooplankton. We have the zooplanktons. These are some of the living organisms that we can be able to find them along the ocean. For example, the planktons are the plants and animals that are occupying the ocean surface. Plants and animals. That occupy water surface. We can also have some of the phytoplanktons These included the ocean plants. Do you remember any ocean plants? I will give you one, such as algae. It is found in the oceans, and this one forms a habitat, or also maybe food for other living things, especially when we go alongside the Japan island along the Pacific Ocean, and then we'll be able to find some of the living organisms such as fish and crabs. The zooplanktons also included the ocean animals. It involves the ocean animals such as lobsters. We can have crabs. Any other ocean animal that you know, you can have jellyfish, and so many other. This brings us to one understanding of the nature of the ocean topography. When we look careful at the ocean topography, we will be able to have found that the ocean topography is made up of various characteristics of various parts. These include the continental shelf, can also have the continental slope, some other features such as abyssal plain and the mid-ocean ridges. Let me give you the features that are associated with ocean topography so that we could move and find out what is important in the ocean, what is found in the ocean, and associated features of the ocean making up the hotspot of the ring of fire. Now, when we look at our chart on the ocean topography, there are various features that are found on almost every ocean. As we have already discovered, we have various oceans. That is the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Antarctic Ocean. Most of the ocean have what we call the ocean topography. And the ocean topography is made up of various features. And one of the features is the continental shelf. Continental shelf is a small shelf that is bordering the water, and along this shelf, if found almost in the island where there is a continental shelf such as Japan, we can find various animals or aquatic life living in this region. And then as you move along the continental shelf, you will meet what we call the mid-ocean ridge. The mid-ocean ridge, it may not only be one, it may be ranges of hills which are submerged underwater. And most of these ridges, they are full of seismic wave, then forming what we call the seismic islands. And therefore, this ocean ridge, it is an ocean ridge which forms now the mid-ocean ridge. Now, when you study careful various activities along this ridge, if they are numerous, they are now repeated. These are just a cross-section, a cross profile of it, and then it carries what we call numerous hills that are going to form mid-ocean now because they are below the water surface. Being there, and then you'll find that there is a small stretch that now almost rises up and form island. And therefore, we can have various islands along the oceans. Remember the Philippine Islands, just as an example. And then there is the deep ocean trench, which forms in some ocean, it makes it the deepest part of the ocean or the deepest valley in the ocean, that creates what we call the deep ocean trench. And the water, the temperature of the water that is found here is relatively different from the temperature of the water that is found alongside this region, especially the abyssal plain. After the deep ocean trench, as you rise up along the plain, you will find that there is abyssal plain around this area, and then it is bordered by a plateau or an ocean plain. Now we are heading to the land. This represents the mantle which forms the hydrosphere, where water, most of the water surfaces are found. Therefore, when we look at this carefully, you will find almost all oceans that we have been able to find out and are able to discover, they are parts of what looks like this topography. Every ocean must have, there is a continental shelf, have also mid-ocean ridge, or just sometimes it can be one and several, sometimes it can be several hills which are found in ranges. We can also have the island. We can also have a deep ocean trench, and then the abyssal plain, the plateau. Remember, alongside the water temperatures, as the water temperatures also vary in some other regions, can also find out some other features such as the gyre. This brings us to the understanding that when we look at most of the various oceans, then we can have a topography of such nature. And then this gives us also a hint, which also brings us to an importance that when we go under the ocean, this is what we are expected to find out. Therefore, where we have the mid-ocean ridges, this is the region, and the deep ocean trenches alongside other trenches that we are able to mention in the previous area, this becomes the active part, of the oceans which make the hotspot of the ring of fire. Then, as we finalize this matter, you could be able to find out that the ring of fire itself now comes when we are embedding ourselves in various continents, such as now we are going to focus on the Pacific Ocean. Just when we focus the Pacific Ocean, then we can come up with a zone that is majorly associated with the ring of fire. And that becomes our best understanding. Now, as we look for more, that is much more about the ocean topography. As we look for more, we can now link up the Pacific Ocean with what we call the ring of fire. We can link up the Pacific Ocean with the ring of fire. When we look at various mountains, after looking also the divergent plates and the regions that are associated with the interaction of the Earth's tectonic plates, we can consider these regions, especially the regions of the Pacific Ocean, and link up them with the ring of fire. As I had mentioned earlier, when we mention any active volcanic mountain, for example, in the world, we'll find it is the Andes Mountain. We can also have the Kamchatka Peninsula and its island. That one is found in Russia. When we go also the island of Japan in the southwest of Asia, stretching to the lands of New Zealand, and then we can link up quickly the Pacific Ocean with the ring of fire. Let's look at the major areas. When we look up at the major areas of the ring of fire, we can never fail to mention about the regions of the Philippines. Remember, we have Australia as a continent, which is the next continent in the northern sides that borders the Australia. Perhaps let's mention in a clockwise manner, we have Australia. And it's not only Australia alone, we have Australia and part of the New Zealand, because it is one continent. When we move on the other region, we will also have to mention Asia. And Asia, we have the active mountains such as Krakatoa in Indonesia. In the other part, where we have a Aleutian Trench that is bordering the Greenland, going into Europe, we can also now bring out that is the North America. And also South America. When South America, when we mention all these regions, beginning from Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand borders also the Philippines island, remember? We can also have the Philippine Islands. Therefore, we also have the Philippine Trench alongside this region, New Zealand and Australia. As we go in Asia, any active mountains, we have the Krakatoa. That one is found in Indonesia. And also remember, we also have another active fall mountain, that is the Himalaya range. When we move at the Greenland, in those regions, we have a Aleutian Trench. And then in South America and Central America, just there, we can have what we call the Puerto Rico Trench. All these trends are leading us to make a conclusion. And then lastly, in South America, we have the Peru and Chile Trench. These trenches that are majorly, when we look at it very carefully, it forms when we associate this region and link up with them. You will find that it forms a feature that goes like It looks just like a ring because we can begin from Australian and then New Zealand. The Philippines ranges are here. And then when we move to the Asia, and then we move after Asia, that is in Europe, and then we come to the, that is North America and South America. Therefore, these regions, look at that. They form something like an arc. Similarly, the feature I had shown you, the volcanic arc. And the regions of volcanic arc, we also have the seismic wave are a prevalence in this region. That makes us also to be happy and found out that the ring of fire is found in those regions. Comparatively, as we finish, we can also be able to look at our chart. And when we look at our chart, then we can confirm exactly where there is the ring of fire. Wow. When we look at the ring of fire, you can just be happy and find out yourself flowing. Where is the continent of Australia? Remember, this is Australia. Bordering what we call the New Zealand. And then we have the Philippine Trench in the island of Philippines. And then on this other side, we have Asia. Asia is connected on the other regions that comes to Europe before we split in, that is in North America, and this becomes South America. Where are we centering? Various trenches are found. Just to mention, remember we had mentioned Java Trench. We had mentioned Java Trench. We had also mentioned Philippine Trench. We had also mentioned Aleutian Trench. We can also come across what we call the Middle American Trench that is found. It is called the Middle American Trench. And then on the opposite side of the Pacific Ocean, we can also have the Puerto Rico and the Peru and the Chile Trench. Look at various trenches that are found. Most of these trenches, they are associated with some of the plates which we are able to find out. In Australia, on the border of Australia and New Zealand, there is a Tonga Trench. This is relatively smaller. Still, some of the exploration going on to find out. But now, the same regions from New Zealand also catching up the northern parts of Australia. This is the same zones where we have various trenches that are going to lead us to find out where is exactly the ring of fire after linking up. Therefore, the ring of fire is centered on one major ocean, and this is Pacific Ocean, bordering the South American, that is in the southwest of Southern American, we will have Pacific Ocean. When we go in the southern west also of North American continent, we have Pacific Ocean. When we go in the Greenland, that is bordering Europe, we have Aleutian Trench. The border is the Pacific Ocean. When we come in Asia, on the southeast of Asia, we have Pacific Ocean. When we also come to the Philippine Islands, they are bordered with the Pacific Ocean. Where is the Southeast Australia bordering? Which ocean is that mainly? Mainly it is the Pacific Ocean. And majorly the whole part of New Zealand is also bordered by the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, looking at this chart, it gives us a summarized content of what we have been able to find here. The Java Trench are associated with it. After making association, now we have been able to link up. Therefore, conclusively, we can find the ring of fire surrounding the Pacific Ocean. And alongside this region, this is actually the region that is marked red, is the region of the fire zone. It is actually the region of the ring of fire zone. The region of the ring of fire zone. The ring of fire zone producing a unique feature where we can be able to find most of the seismic activities, most of the volcanic activities, and most of the tsunamis are happening along the Pacific Ocean. And that is why Philippines never miss. If there is a tsunami emanating from Pacific Ocean, you remember the Philippine quake, you remember the Chile quake, the South, that is the Central American global quake in various years. Also in the country of the Puerto, where we have the Puerto Rican Trench, it is still a continuation of the Pacific Ocean on the other side. But in Asia, on the opposite side, we have, that is the Indian Ocean. This forms various areas. Therefore, definitely, we look at this as the area of the ring of fire. Now, after we are able to look at this, then we can make an important aspect that is going to help us understand this concept. Let us make some review. As we are making up some review, I have around 2 to 3 questions that can be able to help us quickly review this concept, so that it is important that we catch up with them. The first question asks us to define the mid-ocean ridge. Define mid-ocean ridge. It's very simple. And the second question shows that studies have revealed that mid-ocean ridges are zones of volcanic activities. Studies have revealed that mid-ocean ridge mid-ocean ridge. Studies have revealed that mid-ocean ridge are zones of volcanic activity. There was a question mark there, and then we have to answer that question simply. And then the third question, identify 2 examples of ridges in the world. Examples of ridges in the world, and then identify other 3 forms of boundaries that results from tectonic. Identify other forms of boundary. Boundaries that result from tectonic plates. Let's remind ourselves this concept in very few minutes. What is the mid-ocean ridge? I will give you an option that you can respond on it. We found out that they are most extensive chains of mountains that are found on Earth along the ocean floor. When we come to this question 2, you will find out that the studies have revealed that the mid-ocean ridges are zones of volcanic and earthquakes, or maybe seismic waves. That is where you could be able to have found them. We have responded to the 2 questions. And then identify any 2 examples of ridges in the world. Just remember, this is a question to test our memory. We have the East Pacific Ridge and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Finally, let us look at this question that we have to identify other forms of boundaries that results from tectonic plates. What are these boundaries? We have singing, we have repeated them, we have mentioned them elsewhere. This one you cannot miss to respond to it. You can even highlight them on your notebook. That forms our concepts to be very clear, and after looking at this very, very great important topic of the mid-ocean ridges and the ring of fire, we are able also to explore some areas of great importance in this topic, that we have conclusively come to the end of this topic. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed. Welcome to the next lesson.